time to relax and chill. Just to let you know, I am Sandra Senior from Irie Salon and Spa, and where we concentrate and focus on services and products and therapies for relaxation, rejuvenation, and wellness. And I myself am a massage therapist and an integrative nutritional health coach. And this is one of our events, IRI, what we do, we call them IRI lifestyle events, where we used to do them in person, but now we're online. So whether it's paint and sip or just being informative, we're here for you. So welcome, welcome. And we're here today. There's like 10 different cameras around me. um, so we're here to time to reevaluate. We're talking about maturing, aging, getting older, and I don't know about you. I wear a lot of hats. You know, I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a business owner. I do a lot. So we're getting older, and we're trying to navigate this time in our lives. So we're trying to really figure out, and myself especially, relationships and career, all these different things. So what do we do? You know, how am I going to have fun and stay healthy and do a lot and just be happy for the next 50 years? I'm giving it 50 years. So
I
there's
love
a lot
the
going on.
optimism.
Excuse me.
I
Yes.
love the optimism.
Yes, I got 50 years to have some more fun. I'm turned 50, so I was like, I got to make these 50 great. And how do I stay healthy and fit and all that, doing that? So it's always a question. So we're talking to these wonderful ladies today. We have Faith Saunders, executive producer and host of Discover a New Future TV, and the show and author of Break Free 52 Tips to
To escape from
52
your
tips to
self-imposed
escape
prison.
a self-imposed prison. That's interesting. Journal to Wellness. And also Dr. Patricia Pimentel Selassie of New York Flower Center of Naturopathic Medicine and author of Aging Brilliantly. And also Patricia A. Patton of cannaboomer.net. And we're going to hear a lot of interesting things from her today, and author of Asking for a Friend. So we're going to start with Faith. And
Me.
yes, Faith, executive producer and host of Discover New Future. And Faith's mission is to support individuals to be the best version of themselves. She's now an entrepreneur, and Faith received a master's degree in psychiatric oh my gosh, I can't speak.
Rehabilitation. Don't worry about all of that.
I'm going to take a sip.
Okay, you don't even have to read all of that. Please don't even go down there.
No, I'm going to tell her about you. She was also an adjunct professor of Rutgers University of Health-Related Professionals. And most recently, she joined the faculty of Mercer Community College. After leaving Rutgers, Faith worked with the Mental Health Association of New Jersey, and she has implemented and developed New Jersey State funded Employee Institute, which is the CCERI, and she served as director for the CCERI for 14 years. Well, obviously, Faith, you're a woman that wears many hats like myself. And just talk to us. Tell us how to help maneuver this and maneuver, you know, the next 50 years.
Okay, so thank you so much, Sandra, for actually even having me here. It's a privilege and an honor, and I appreciate it. So 50. All right, so as you can see here, I have you'll see when we have this video live, I have on my screen 50. This is 50. What should we be expecting? And we should be expecting a lot. I am 57 years old. So it's 57 years old. I've been in the 50s for quite a while, and I must say that when I turned 50, it was one of the most challenging time of my life, because it seemed like it just crawled out. It just kind of got crawled up on me, and I'm like, oh my goodness. What am I going to be doing? And when we turn at these significant, when we reach these significant milestones in our lives, most of the time it helps. It kind of put us in a space where we have to start taking an introspective look at our lives to say, well, is this the life that I intended to live, or this is the life that I want, right? And when I turned 50, that was one of the things that I had to grapple with in my life. One, as I said, it just seemed like it just crawled up on me, and I didn't think I was prepared for it. But one of the things that I got out of that self-exploration as it pertains to how am I going to show up for the next 50 years of my life was to come up with a personal mission statement, which is right here. And, you know, companies have mission statements, and we wonder why we don't have a mission statement. And a mission statement for companies, one, the thing that kind of drives everything that they do, or should drive everything that they do. And so my mission statement that I created for myself has been the driving force behind everything that I've been doing since I developed it in my 50s, my early 50s. And it is to co-create with spirit, to develop a fertile foundation that will continue to grow long after I am gone, bringing forth goodness that has a rippling effect. And for me, what that means is that whatever I'm doing now is to plant into people and to create a fertile foundation, not only physically in terms of building, etc., because those things like that go, but in terms of the people I interact with in my life on a daily basis. Who am I helping today to be a better version of themselves, as you mentioned earlier, Sandra? And my belief is that when you plant into people, it creates a rippling effect because they show up differently in their lives. And when they show up differently in their lives, they're interacting with others. And so the rippling effect goes on. So that is my mission statement. So one of the things that I thought about when I was kind of thinking about what you asked me to speak about, Sandra, was, you know, we have different milestones in our lives. At birth, we have these big celebrations when someone is pregnant and when they have their child. That's a big time in one's life. And then when they become their first birthday, that's another exciting time. And then a major time is when we're 16, 21, 25, 30, 40, and then we get into the 50s. And for many individuals that I've spoken to, especially women, when they reach that milestone, it seems that we're not prepared for what's happening or what this next phase of our life. And so one of the things I want to do is to share that one of the key things in terms of preparing for our 50s is one, as I mentioned earlier, to take an introspective look at one's life. Because guess what? The things that were important to me when I was in my 20s and my 30s and my 40s are no longer different from, are as important to me now that I'm in my 50s. And especially now that I'm on my way to my 60s. I'm closer to the 60 than to the 50, right? So I have to start taking an introspective look at my life in terms of what are some of the things that are serving me well, and what are some of the things that I may need to kind of put on the side burner and leave them behind because they're not adding value to my life at this time. So one of the things I came up with, and I thought about this, and I'm like, self-care. And as women, most of the time we give everything we have to somebody else, and then we get what's left after. And one of the key things I really believe is that in order for us to be our best self to others, we have to be our best self to ourselves. Because if we're not filling ourselves up and really taking care of ourselves, how can we really show up in our best self to be able to give to others? So the quote that I came up with is that self-care is giving you the best of you instead of what is left of you.
Love it.
Self-care is giving you the best of you instead of what is left of you. And that is so, so important because we have to keep on filling ourselves up. So in order to do that, there are 8 key areas of our lives that we need to pay attention to. And studies show that they're basically called the 8 dimensions of wellness. And they are our physical wellness, our emotional wellness, our spiritual wellness, our occupational wellness, our financial wellness, our social wellness, environmental wellness, and last but not least, our intellectual wellness. I don't even know if I spelled that correctly. And you know why I know that I've matured and I'm doing very well? Because in the past, if I thought that that was spelled incorrectly, I'd be like beating up myself. How didn't you check that? Why did Right now, folks, that may be spelled incorrectly, and I apologize if it's spelled incorrectly, but we need to move on. You got the picture, right? So, so this is the 8 dimensions of wellness. And I do an activity in the work that I do with individuals to do a self-assessment on these key areas. And it's a fun activity. It's called How Well Does Your Wheel Turn? Again, in order for a wheel to turn, it has to be perfect, 360 degrees, right? But when individuals do that activity, they find that their wheel has a lot of bumps into it and holes into it because we're not perfect. There are areas of our lives that may need our attention. And one of the things here I want to really pay attention, just to emphasize, is that these dimensions of wellness do not stand by themselves. They are all interrelated. Because if we're not physically well, it impacts our emotions. And it also can impact our spiritual wellness. It impacts how we show up at work and how productive we are at work. Not talking about the finances, right? So I could go on and on and on, but I just want us to be aware of these are some key areas of our lives that we have to be mindful of, especially as we turn 50 or are approaching 50, or we're in our 50s, 60s, or older. And it's important to know that none of these different dimensions drop off the tail end as we get older. In fact, they become more important as we are maturing in our lives. So self-care tips. I know I only have 15 minutes, so that's why I'm just kind of doing this so fast because I want time for everyone else to speak. But self-care tips. There are a few of them that I want to leave with you today, and they are: do what is best for you. So often we live what we're living for others. We're not living our truth. We're living what other people want us to do and want us to be, or be who other people want us to be. Do what is best for you, because only you know what is best for you. That's my first tip for someone turning 50 or in their 50s and maturing. The next one is do the things you are avoiding. Most of the times, the things we are avoiding are the things that we need to get to that next step. But fear is getting in the way. So the more that we can start doing those things, it frees us up to kind of take on other things that we really like to do. The other thing is, when we keep on avoiding things that we need to be doing, it also creates a lot of stress. And that's another whole show, Sandra, to talk about stress and the impact that stress has on our lives. So it's very important for us to do the things that we're avoiding. Often you hear take a warm bath and shower, but also studies show that taking a cold shower or bath does stimulate our minds. It helps within our overall body, but also especially our minds. So that's something to look into. And
I don't
and I
know.
think, and I'm thinking, I'm reading this and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's getting cold outside and you're telling me to go have a cold shower. um, re- reframe your inner chatter. Oh my goodness. Sometimes the way that we talk to ourselves, we never even talk to our worst enemy that way. And so part of this is, how can we reframe what we're actually doing? And how can we really kind of refrain our thought process? Because when we change what's between our ears, we change our lives. And we need to start setting boundaries. So often we take on everything. Someone say, can you do this? Yes, I'll be there. Can you do this? Can we be there? And we wonder why we feel depleted. So it's very important to say the curse word, which is no. Sorry, I can't do this. And last but not least, the other tip I have for you is dump it out. And what I mean by dump it out is that so often we spend so much time in our head, as I mentioned, but they say that majority of our thought process is subconscious, and so there's so much up here that's clogging up the flow of things, that when we start writing things down, expressing ourselves on paper, and this is not for anyone to read, it could just be for you to just write down what you're feeling. In fact, that's my way of coping, is that when I'm upset about something, the first thing that I do is I get a piece of paper and I write it down. And sometimes some of the things that come down on that paper, I'm being so honest with you, I don't want anyone else to ever see that I wrote that on paper. So I tear it up into small pieces and I get rid of it. But I feel better, right? And sometimes what comes out on the paper, I wasn't even consciously aware of. That's what was happening up here. So dump it out, put it on a piece of paper, write, journal, etc. So those are some of the key areas that I think is very important as we mature and we go into this phase of our life of 50 or older, to be cognizant of these key areas that we spoke about. And there are many others, but I really felt that these are some areas that we really need to take care of at this juncture in our lives. I will talk about this later. This is a workshop that I'm doing. I don't know, Sandra, if you want me to do this now or you want me to wait until the other ladies speak.
And after we'll talk about it, what's going on later.
Okay.
We
Okay,
all have
perfect.
amazing events and blogs and everything that everybody needs to sign on right away. It's like, where's the time to do all? I want to do all of it.
All right, so that's what I have for you, because I know I only had 15 minutes, but I really want to kind of just put it in a good little chunk for you.
Okay, because it sounds like you're asking us to you're asking us to go within.
Yes.
Yeah, is that something that you find hard to do? What about you, or what about Patricia, both Patricias? How do you feel about that? Do you find time, do you make time to go within, every now and then, once a day, once a week, once a month?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big journal writer. I have my journal actually.
Journal.
I have it on a disk system, so I can rip it out and tear it up, as Miss Faith says, because sometimes you just have to like let it all out. And when it's swimming in your head, it's like it's just junk. And sometimes ideas too, positive things, are swimming around in your head, and they don't really actually become reality until you write them down. So I love that. Dump it out.
Yeah. Thank you.
Excellent.
For me, it was one of the earliest lessons that I was taught in my house that I really didn't come into a full understanding of until really in maturity. And that was, my mother used to tell me all the time that I needed to get to myself. And I couldn't understand. Like, I was like, woman, I'm telling you, I'm having a problem. And she would tell me I needed to get to myself, meaning I needed to be able to go inside. And so I do have a practice for that. I mean, I'm a writer, but I also find that I need to meditate. I need to quiet my mind, and I have to have a practice really for doing that. So
exactly.
I absolutely agree with you. Your name is
Faith. Have faith.
Faith. Yes, Faith. I really have to agree with you. These are great suggestions.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I appreciate that. But one of the things I just want to say, Sandra, is that I believe that you have to go within. Because if you don't quiet yourself and go within, it's just busy work. We're spending time doing everything that most of the time we're not supposed to be doing, and not really focusing on what our purpose is and what we're supposed to be here to do, right? So that's one of the reasons why I wrote my book, 50 Break Free, 52 Tips to Escape from Your Self-Imposed Prison, because I believe that we are our worst enemies. We are the ones who actually get in our own way. And the book is not a read, it is a workbook to actually work through these things that get in our own way. So that's it.
I'm gonna need that. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're gonna have a few things to work on later, I guess. Okay, so next we have Dr. Patricia Pimentel Selassie. She's a third generation physician. She received her naturopathic doctorate degree from Bastyr. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes.
University in Seattle, Washington. She's known by her patients as the doctor you can talk to. And you know, how much of us can relate that we want that? Because you're like, can I ask? Can I not ask? Can I say this? Can I, you know, so you want that doctor. So the Dr. Selassie is the author of Aging Brilliantly, How to Eat, Move, Rest, Socialize Your Way to a Long Life. In her practice at the Brooklyn, New York-based Flower Center for Naturopathic Medicine, she blends evidence-based naturopathic medicine with the intuitive coaching style. I got it out. So people can be their healthiest, best, and live their best life purpose, I should say. So I can pick your brain all day about aging. What do you have for us? What's happening in this time with all these changes for us? Like, how can
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. I mean, so first of all, I have to say I had a PowerPoint.
Oh,
Computer was
go ahead.
updating. So I really, thank you, Miss Faith, for coaching me and saying, like,
Sorry.
because I was like, oh no, I have my PowerPoint. I can't post it. It's taking forever for my. But I realized at 50, it's really about what you have to say. It's not about, at least for me, I love the pretty pictures. I love the PowerPoints. I loved how organized Miss Faith's was. Mine was too. But really, it's just about your message. And I think my message is being, I'm not quite 50, I'm 47, so 10 years younger than Miss Faith. And I would have to say that what I'm seeing with a lot of my patients entering menopause or going through pre-menopause or perimenopause is they sort of enter it unprepared, just like Miss Faith says, and they sort of have this idea, like, or this last decade in their late 30s and early 40s, where they were doing, everything is a list, they're grinding at work, they're really trying to, they're like, this is my last chance to really get my career taken off, or else they're a mother. I'm a mother of 5, so I get it. Everything's about your children. And then all of a sudden they find themselves at 50, where sometimes some women with 50-year-olds, their children are way more independent, and they did kind of take off in their career. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, here I am, and I don't fit in my wedding dress anymore, and I don't look like I used to look, and and it's this sort of looking back and this kind of loss of looking back. But my message to them is always, listen, you can go through menopause like this, fighting the whole way through, or you can really enter it in a graceful, powerful way. And one way to do that is to understand that you don't want to fit in your wedding dress. That was last season. You don't need to be wearing the same size you wore when you were 20. That's not, now we're celebrating all bodies. We're celebrating, and now you have experience behind you. And the new role that you should take on around 50 is that of mentorship, that as a mentor. So
Okay.
at this point, you've got some experience. At this point, you've got some experience, and there are some young, powerful women coming up right behind you. And you being there to give a little guidance, give your little pearls of wisdom. So like I so soaked up Miss Faith's self-care is giving the best of you instead of what is left of you. That's a pearl that I got from Miss Faith that I will hold with me, because I see that. I see women that they're all of a sudden they kind of take stock of what's left, and instead they should really be celebrating who they are and what they have to offer, and kind of step into this role that's, instead of being on the grind, it's kind of being, an a model for the women that are coming up behind you. And then I find that women who are around 50 who start to get it and start to take on that role, they sort of, all of a sudden the stress kind of leaves. They're like, oh, you know, they can kind of sit up and they can kind of be, they're able to take a pause and be proud of who they are and what they've learned, what they've accomplished. And that's one way to go in. To really go in is just to sort of sit down and notice your accomplishments and see what you have to offer in the world. And I love that idea that Ms. Faith has about creating a motto. I don't know if you called it a motto, but sort of creating like a mission statement of going forward, because I think that you could, you know, there's really so much that women at this age have to offer. You know, they're right in between young women and elders. So it's really a time to celebrate, where I think a lot of women end up having a lot of symptoms, a lot of anxiety, a lot of, you know, stress, and it really can be much better. And the other thing that I like to say as a naturopathic doctor is that I like to tell these women that every master has a coach. So if you're going to look at some, and the person coming to my mind right now is Michael Jordan. I wish I had a nice woman to use, but Michael Jordan has his coaches. He's a master, but he has his coaches. So it's also time for you to reach out and get your support. You know, like maybe you need mental health. Maybe it's something like a workbook from Miss Faith, or maybe I know that Ms. Patricia is going to talk about CBD oil. That's a big one that I really love for women in menopause to really take advantage of, as CBD as a coach, you know, or a naturopathic doctor as a coach, or a therapist, or a life coach, or a business coach, or whatever it is that you need. Or maybe it's even just a girlfriend that you can you know, communicate with and connect with, who has some words of advice for you, and you can give her some words of advice. But really kind of tapping into people that can support you in being your best, and you supporting you as being a master or a mentor. This is the book I wrote. It's called Aging Brilliantly. And there's really 4 pillars in it. And I too talk about people reaching 100, just like you said, Miss Sandra, that you've got 50 more, you just turned 50, you got 50 more years. And this book, the beginning of it really goes into the blue zones, which are 6 areas around the world where people tend, you know, there are more people that reach the age of 100 than any other area. And what we found is that I looked at the 4 pillars: eating, moving, resting, and socializing your way to long life. And so just quick tips that I'd like to say about each of those 4 areas. Moving is really important. You know, and I think that a lot of people, maybe they missed that time where they really got into that, you know, gym kind of culture, and now they're 50 and they're feeling like that's really a big leap for them to all of a sudden start going to the gym. Plus now it's difficult and maybe not the safest thing to do to go to the gym. But what we found about people that live until 100, a lot of their movement is incorporated into their life. So like in Okinawa, Japan, you know, in that culture, they're sitting oftentimes on pillows. And so they're getting up and sitting down hundreds of times in a day, just sitting on the floor, getting back up, sitting on the floor. So they'll eat in a circle on the floor on pillows, or they'll sit on the pillows and watch TV, you know, so things like that. I noticed that with me having 5 children, it's very easy for me to tell one of them, oh, go fetch that for mommy, or, you know, or my husband, who's a very big man, I can tell him, you know, switch out the water cooler, or grab those groceries, or reach that thing for me up there, when really I'm quite capable. And these are ways that we can incorporate movement into our life. And just even thinking about things like rotating shoulders, I think that's really important. You really want to like rotate your hips, you know, like stretch your legs out, rotate your ankles. Incorporating everyday movement is very important for your joints and your life and longevity. And when people, or women, well, all people who really tend to keep still and now it's dangerous. Now we're all living our lives in front of Zoom. They're the ones that are going to have arthritis when they get older. You know, you would think it's the opposite. I think people think arthritis is a disease of wear and tear on the joints, but you also have to move the joints to get nutrition into the joint. There's no blood supply that actually goes into the joint. the nutrients come in by you moving or pumping your joints. So you got to keep them lubricated. You got to keep them moving. So that's my one tip about moving. Resting is important. And I think this is important for women of menopausal age. And one of the things is you tend to need less sleep at around this age. However, sleep can be, you do need it. And I think what happens with menopause is women, you lose your progesterone before you lose your estrogen. And losing progesterone is really that keeping still hormone, that hormone that helps you relax, that hormone that helps you sleep deeper. It's that hormone also that keeps you from being irritable. So sometimes women, they get a drop in their progesterone and all of a sudden, you know, they're feeling irritated, everything's annoying them. So ways that you can increase your progesterone are really simple things like vitamin C, which I'm really recommending to people now just to prevent COVID. It's a super easy supplement to get. You know, try to get non-genetically modified because a lot of the vitamin C is made from corn. And just take your vitamin C. It'll help you make progesterone. And the other thing is really to prioritize sleep. You know, I think a lot of us, because we don't necessarily need as much sleep as we did in our younger days, we just don't think we need it, but that's not true at all. And also one other thing about sleep is sleeping earlier. So sleeping between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. is usually a deeper, more healing and restorative sleep. Even if you get 8 hours, but you go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and get up at, you know, what's 8 hours, you know, get up at 9 or 10. Thank you. So, you know, it's because we are diurnal in nature. We're not roaches or rats that wake up at night. We actually are humans and we wake up with the light and we go to bed. We're supposed to go to bed when it gets dark, but with electronics and screens and computers and smartphones and TVs, we push that later and later. So if you can try to shift your sleeping time, even if it's not as much as you'd like, if you start to shift it a little bit earlier. The next is socialize. So how to eat, move, eat, move, rest, and socialize your way to long life. I forgot about eating, but eating is actually the first pillar. That's really huge. And I could probably do, you know, a 2-hour class just on that itself. But what I really like to tell people is you want to get your vegetables and you want to get your protein and good fats to boot too. Most of us, when we're reaching for snacks, it's really easy when you're busy to just reach for that cookie, reach for that cracker, reach for that, you know, do toast in the morning. But food from flour is not really giving you the kind of nourishment and the support that your already dwindling hormones need. You really need, and you know, the real anti-aging nutrients really come from colors. So, you know, tomatoes are red, cucumbers are green, kale is green, eggplant is purple. Those are the antioxidants that are going to help your skin. They're going to protect your organs. They're going to help your eyesight. Where food from flour, it just doesn't have that same aliveness. It doesn't have the same nutrients, the antioxidants. So really focus on having colors on your plate and just don't forget about the protein. I think that a lot of people just take that for granted. They just say, well, I always have a protein, but now, you know, you're hearing a lot about eating more of a plant-based diet, which I think is great. And I love this trend, but just don't forget the protein and other forms of protein that are not necessarily animal-based are beans and nuts and seeds. Seeds in particular are really helpful with supporting women's hormones. So like flax seeds, sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds are really important. And the last pillar, so that was eating, we talked about moving, resting, and the last pillar is socializing your way. Most elders that live to 100 are really in communities. And now I think there's so many things happening, but something like this, like a brunch and learn, is just a real simple way to tap into your community, see what other women, you know, around your age are doing and what they're doing. I'm just, you know, just getting such a good strength just from being one of the panelists of this talk right here. And I have my journal. Here's another one of my journals, so I can make little notes and made little notes that Miss Faith said, I'm going to get your book and do your workbook. So really reaching out and seeing what's out there and seeing yourself not as an observer, but as a part of the community who can participate. And even if it's like we're not lunching in person, you can get the workbook, you can get the book. You know, I've got quizzes and things and little It's a fun read. There's lots of pictures, and there's little question and answers, and there's ways that you can, just read a section at a time. It's not necessarily a book you read from the front to the back. So that's basically it. My talk, my book, Aging Brilliantly, how you can sort of approach your new identity as 50 as a mentor, and some little self-care tips that you can do to help support you in your aging.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Great, great tip.
Thank you so much for having me.
I love the idea when you said in Japan they get up and down. I think we were having a conversation with Faith before about movement, and I'm like, sometimes I just get up and dance around the living room like a crazy person. What do they say? Dance like no one's watching. Like, okay, I'll just get up and I'm typing. You know what? I like that song. I get up and do a little dance, and so great tips, and I really love to hear that. And also, when you talk about hormones, I think that it's on my mind, and I get this question all the time. And menopause, premenopause, postmenopause, that, what's the word I should use? Those flashes, those
Yeah.
hot flashes. What's the best tip? Or, maybe you ladies, you have tips or different things you have done that can help, because I hear so many things. Apart from sitting in a tub of ice, I mean, what can I do?
I
Well,
have no suggestions. I suffered is mostly I just kind of suffered through it because I didn't take medication, and I never really found
I'm not.
anything that changed or helped it. I mean, there were teas, and I tried everything along that line, but in truth, I lived through it, without throwing myself out the window.
Don't do that. We'll go back to Faith
I love
suggestion
that
of self-care.
I love it. It's like, it's a normal, natural part of aging. It doesn't mean you have a disease because you have a hot flash.
Mhm.
So I love that. It's sort of like birth. It's not exactly easy, to give birth to a child, but it is there is sort of a rite of passage, and maybe that's it.
Mhm. Yeah, I didn't look at it that way. Yeah, very interesting.
Well, I must say I was blessed. I really didn't go through.
Oh, okay.
That's great. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you, ladies. It's always something on all our minds. And definitely, I'm going to try a few of those tips. So next, we're going to speak with Patricia, the other Patricia, Patricia A. Patton. Um, and she's one of the nation's experts on, why am I beeping? Okay, experts on the boomer reinvention. And she's just having a 30-year focus on aging, innovation, health, and wellness. And baby boomers are demographically cover the period of 1946 to 1964, and will become the largest segment of the workforce by 2034. They're interested not only in living a longer life, but a healthier, longer life. So every project in Patricia's work career has been integral to the current trajectory that has led to the inclusion of cannabis and plant medicine. Her Cannaboomer consultancy supports hemp and cannabis brands that focus on wellness and the older customer. She is a happy grandma that has evolved in time and space and with each cultural shift. Isn't that beautiful? Okay, well, Patricia, you tell me all the time in your blogs and everything, you talk about aging is about freedom. Um, at this point, is being a boomer, is this what you always wanted to do? Did you always know what you wanted to do?
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, the only thing that I was certain of was that I wanted to be the boss of myself. And I wasn't sure how to make that a reality. And I say that because I am number 4 of 6 children, but basically I'm like an only child because my sister was 7 years older than me. So I had those 3 telling me what to do. And then I have two younger brothers who were not interested in me. So I was sort of alone or between the generations. But I say all that to say that I think somewhere embedded in my psyche was the desire to be my own boss, you know, because I definitely have resisted um, any efforts to to keep me from following my own path. And I haven't always known where to go, but I was willing to try, you know.
Okay. Well, so at what point did you begin to discover like these new possibilities that of, especially when it comes to cannabis, CBD? Well, at what point did it?
So I will start. I actually have, I left my job 9 to 5 job 16 years ago. And I basically jumped into what I considered freedom. I've worked harder in these 16 years than I ever worked for or at a job, but I've also been happier than I ever was, and I've definitely had to pivot several times since, beginning this. I left my job after I got the courage to do so after 9/11. That was really in 2004. And my idea at that point in time was to start a healthy and organic business on the beach, work for 4 hours, 4 months during the year, and then to travel and be abroad the rest of the year. That was kind of like the idea. But I was on the front end of that trend here. I live along the Jersey Shore. I live in Asbury Park. I was early in the trend in terms of people coming to the area. And maybe that business should have been in California rather than in New Jersey, because the hamburgers and French fries always outsold my salmon burgers and gazpacho and wheatgrass shots. Like, I didn't have a chance, to be perfectly honest. So I had to pivot. But
Yeah.
when I was in that space and that initial pivot, I went online and began to become a digital entrepreneur, because I was trying to create some buzz around what I was doing, And so I was a part of the movement of bloggers, mommy bloggers, but I was a midlife blogger.
Yeah.
At that point in time, they were called midlife bloggers. This is probably maybe 2010, maybe 2011, midlife bloggers. But again, the problem was the life that I led as a quote unquote midlife blogger, because, that's to be discussed. When does midlife actually begin? My life was different from the Orange County women who were living a midlife.
Okay.
So if you come from a rich neighborhood and, you come into midlife with certain expectations, that might be quite different from me. Like, I came into midlife wanting to implement my dreams, So in the course of having had to pivot more than one time, because I was unable to be successful in a monetary sense. I had to redefine what success was. I had to really come to some kind of conclusion about what was success to me, and success to me really for 16 years is that I've been able to live the life I wanted to. I have not been able to live the life as a startup business, but I don't have a boss. I am the boss. I am the boss. And the shift that we had to go through from owning a home, wanting a car, and a good job, those were the things that I left home with as a definition of success.
Yeah.
Well, now the things that are important to me are good health, satisfying relationships, freedom of choice, in a sort of financial secure conclusion. These are things that are more important to me. I'm sort of jumping around because I don't want to repeat what both of the excellent panels have said. I've enjoyed the conversations. Really, both of you women have just been incredible. And I really think that um, one of the things that I did in this whole course was I created another thing, which is called Dream Yourself Awake. This is about 5 years ago that I created Dream Yourself Awake, because I think, as Dr. Pimentel was saying, we really need community. I mean, there's no way that we should leave this community without, setting up some sort of agreement that we will share and merge our communities, because that's how you grow. You cannot grow. Let's put it like this: you can grow, but you grow slowly, going by yourself. You grow faster and you go further in community. And there's no reason that we shouldn't share and big up each other, because we're all talking about the truth. It may be different for each person's life, just like middle age may begin at a different point for each person. But in my mind, youthfulness is a perspective. It's not a function of when you hit 50-year-old, or, when you're, clearly I'm a baby boomer, so I'm older than all of you, but most of my friends are 25 years younger than me. And that's because these are the people who share my interests. They are either digital entrepreneurs, they have a commitment to lifelong learning. They're not defined by their age. They work to reject fear in their life. We are all working to accept our gifts in life, because otherwise you can't do what you came here to do if you don't really accept your gifts. And, certainly I've come into a space in my own life where it's important to me that I'm able to make a difference. And so being able to make a difference, I can make a difference, in my orbit. I don't have to be Oprah. Like, I can be a philanthropist with $2,000. I don't have to have $2 million to be a philanthropist. I concur with much of what has been said. And I want to say that, within the idea of self-care, one of the things that I had to do myself over the past month, this is a transparency moment now. Like, this is none of the stuff I intended to share, but
share. That's what happened.
But this is a transparency moment. But one of the things that I had to do for myself over the past 4 weeks is to ask for help. With COVID, being by myself, living alone, you know what I'm saying? Basically, managing all the negative information that is there for us to take in, because there's more of that than there is anything else. I really had to ask for help. And one of my takeaways from the person who coached me, because every coach needs a coach. I'm dittoing what you said. Every writer needs a good editor. You're better. You're just better if you have that kind of input or help from people who have your best interests at hand. But the takeaway that I had from this particular person who helped me was, she said to me, what about giving up all of the striving? Because my life is built on, they say, figure out what you want, see it so clearly. You need to see it really, really clearly, But what happens with that, I realize in aging, is that sometimes your blessings come and you miss them because you think it's supposed to look a certain way, right? You think it's supposed to look right? You think it's supposed to look a certain way. So she was saying to me, what about, forget the striving, and how about the allowing? Just kind of allow, because that thing that let's think about, what does it look like? How does it taste? How are you going to know it? She said, but maybe it's that thing or something better. It's that thing or something better. You don't necessarily have all the information to be able to know even what the something better is. So I'm going to put my papers aside and just wind up by saying that I think that what we have to do, well, age and maturity, as everybody knows, are two different things. They're not the same thing. And so one of the things that I have looked for, in the digital space is particularly as I've aged, is community. And because what you're looking for, what will grow you, that's really what you're looking for. What will grow me, and we have the capacity to sort of shift the energy in the world, but you cannot do that if you don't, nurture and grow yourself and grow the things that in the quietness, what they are. Like, they have nothing to do with the box that people want to put you in. I'm going to close by just saying that, as I said, this is not what I planned to say. This is what I felt moved to say. So I just want to say that because these things have been really important to me my whole life, and because even in my 20s, I was able to travel the world and see that people integrated their values into the life that they lived. Like, they didn't have this idea about retirement. Like, at some point in life, you start to do something different. No, at the point in life that you are able to understand what it is that matters to you, you begin to incorporate those things into your life. You begin to live it, just like the seed is there, it pops, and then you have to allow it to grow and blossom, and it's your job to feed yourself. As Faith was saying, it's your job to feed yourself, and that has to do with both what you put in your life, what you keep out of your life, the community that you use to fertilize, your growth. All of those things are important. My last pivot into the area of cannabinoids and plant medicine began about 2.5 years ago. I could see that there was a shift happening economically, financially, like sort of it's just a return to things that were there before. I think I may have said to Sandra in a separate conversation that I didn't know what preventative medicine was growing up. Like, we did not go to the doctor. Like, we took care of ourselves at home. At the point at which people went to the doctor, it was like, well, she gone. Like, we're going to go and see if they have something special. But I did not go to the doctor for just checkups. Like, this is something that began in my 30s, because as it happened, I worked for a European company, and that's how I thought, oh my God, these people are taking care of themselves in different ways, I mean, it's just, okay. So I realized that cannabis is a trend. And I also realized that most baby boomers have been gifted with perhaps 25 additional years of life. I don't know if we're going to get 50, but we might get 25,
Go for it.
Right? Yeah. We use the recommendations of Dr. Patricia, maybe, right?
Yeah.
And the blue zones, because they're fantastic.
Yeah.
But bottom line is that because people are living longer, people may also outlive whatever money they have to live on, and this new industry is one where we have certainly been negatively, as a people, globally impacted by the way that the powers that be have legislated it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and who knows more about hustling than us? We've always had to have more than one job. Like, really. So bottom line is that the creative sense that we have as individuals and as a culture and as people and as aging people, all these things have to be brought to bear with change. And so plant medicine, I think that even though I was embarrassed initially for people to know that I was interested in researching, cannabis and trying to find out, I mean, I didn't want people to know because I felt the stigma of having come of age during the war on drugs and all of the negative attachments that are associated with that. And so, what I would like any of the listeners or viewers who are here to think about is to just open your mind to, say, plant over pills. I mean, at some point they're going to take the plant and turn them into pills. Big pharma's going to do that anyway, but there's no reason for us to close our minds to, for example, CBD oil that may be helpful, from CBD oil from the hemp plant that may be helpful to us in going through menopause. I mean, there is research. I mean, your doctor will tell you that there is not, but there is research that you can Google yourself on ProMedic and see where observational studies have been done, et cetera, and in other countries as well. So anyway, boom. I'd certainly like to be in community with anyone who's interested in knowing more about that. You can certainly join my newsletter or listen to my podcast, Me and Mary Jane. I'd love to know what kind of questions you have about this shift that's taking place, people in your community who are wondering whether it's something that could help them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm, me, plant medicine, food is medicine all day long. And I don't know if I ever shared with any of you. I'm from Jamaica. I'm Jamaican, born and raised in Jamaica. And it's so funny. I don't know if any of you, Faith is Jamaican. We had a little thing I have lots of issues. I have asthma. I was constantly in the hospital. I have skin issues. I mean, there were so many issues, health issues as a child. And underneath the sink, there was the ganja tea. Don't arrest my parents, okay? Don't judge them. There was ganja tea. So at night, just to help me, especially when a little asthma flare up, they rub me down with ganja tea, I put a little tip on the tongue and send you to bed. I was fine the next day. So that, I'm telling you, and I've talked to so many different people. This is a whole different topic. We can go on and on about CBD and plant medicine and so on and so forth. And Dr. Selassie she's like the expert. So, but it's like there's so many cultures that I've been talking to. I've talked to a lot of my Mexican friends. Oh, my grandmother used to roll this, that, whether it's some kind of bush. My mother calls it bush. There's a bush. There's cerasee. There's there's the big talk about mushrooms. Ground up. It's plant medicine. It's just, to me, like any other plant that can heal you or help you in a natural way, and it's preventative, as you said. So why wait to live on something else? But again, that's a whole other topic, a whole other day. We can sit here for hours and talk about it. But so glad that you were able to share that. Thank you so much. And yeah, so we have, let's see, does anybody have any questions? No questions. Okay. And all right. So I don't know. So what do you guys, just to know, I plan to have 50 more years of fun. What are your plans? Because I plan to just travel and I want to see everything and taste everything and experience all these different cultures. There's so much to do. I know I probably won't get to it. Let's be realistic, but I'm gonna try. But what are your plans? There's so much to do right now, and again, I'm gonna have my plant medicine, eat right, exercise, keep moving, do all these things so I can stay healthy, so I can do these things. What do you guys have planned?
Well, with COVID, well,
Oh, that's all. One last.
but for me, I could say that part of mine is going back to what I started with, is that living my mission statement. That means a lot to me, and that's my filter on a daily basis. Am I living what my mission? And it fills me with joy. I mean, helping people is a big piece of mine, and I think it comes back from my parents. And one of the things I want to do is to do some work in Jamaica to help people in Jamaica. And in fact, I'm working on a foundation in Jamaica to do just that. So that's where my mindset is. It's like, how can we plan? How can we um, feed into people? Because especially the younger generation, they're the ones that are going to be here after we are gone. So what can we do to actually help them? So that's where that's what my plans are, and that brings me great joy.
End of the day, that's what we're looking for. Joy
Yeah.
and happiness, as Patricia talked about, that, it was the happiness. You're creating your own joy. You're creating your happiness. Yeah. Okay. So any plans? I think we will. Any plans, Dr. Celeste? And
I mean, I would love to travel too. I did some traveling also when I was younger in my 20s, and been to a few countries, but certainly not enough. And I think since I had my first child, who's almost 20, I've really not traveled a lot, and have gotten a little bit resigned about it with this current pandemic. But hearing Miss Patricia and you, Miss Sandra, talking about traveling, it kind of sparks a little, possibility. My husband's
tomorrow, but
yeah. My husband's Jamaican, and he has been collecting for probably over 30 years now some Rastafarian archives, and has always had this dream of having a museum, mostly back in Jamaica, but most of the archives are here. So I definitely am looking forward in the second half of my life to be supporting him in that. Yeah, my mission is really to help heal the world, so we create heaven on earth, is really what fuels me every day.
I love it. I love it.
Well, one of the things that I skipped over is that 5 years ago, I started a passion project, which is Dream Yourself Awake. And I host and lead retreats in Morocco and Martha's Vineyard are the destinations where we've used them before. I actually had a whole group of dragonflies. I should be in Morocco right now. That was scheduled, but of course, everything died. Everything died this year. But those are basically retreats of mature women who want to have an opportunity to both travel and retreat. And so I'm going to be actually hosting a conversation with Marianne Loom Martin soon. She has a new book called Inside Marrakesh. I normally stay at her place. She's the only Black boutique hotel owner in Marrakesh, but we often stay at her place because how would you describe her? She is, if she was male, you say she is a man about town, but she is a global, she's a global maven, hotelier, interior designer of Senegalese and West Indian descent. Has been living in Marrakesh since '85. She's French, actually, from Paris. She's a lawyer who turned hotelier. And so it's always nice to spend some time at her place. And I usually incorporate that into my travels of the country, you know. So we have to figure out how to do a Dream Yourself Awake retreat online. Since I won't be getting on a plane. You know, if I'm not getting on a plane to go west to see my grandchildren, I'm
Oh,
not going out of the country.
oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. I'm so glad that you guys to join us. You know, it's the conversation needs to be had, and I find that sometimes people don't want to talk about, you know, aging and being mature, and you know, it's just a natural, like you said, it's a natural pathway. It's the natural way of things. So it's rites of passage that we're probably going
Exactly.
through, you know, like every couple of years, everything that happens. So that's a great way to look at it. I'm gonna start looking at it every time my knee hurts. Arthritis kicks in. That's a rite of passage. But thank you for joining us, and you can put your contact information in the chat, so we can share that. So it's Faith Saunders with
Mhm.
discoveranew.future.com, Dr. Patricia Pimentel Selassie at drselassie.com, and Patricia Patton, cannaboomer.net. She has great a blog and you know, and newsletter with tons of information. And you know, and me, Sandra Senior, at info@iriesalonandspa.com. And Faith, you were going to share your upcoming event that or event
Yeah.
that you had.
Yes, I said I was just gonna go there. Just 1 second. Bear with me. We're almost let me go down to where it was. 1 minute. Yeah, here it is. Let me move this out of the way. Let me go here. Okay. Yes. So one of the things that I wanted to do, I'm planning on doing, is to do a 4-week session, and it's on Thursday night, 7 to 8:30. But it's a 4-week series of how can we break free because we're worth it. And during this time we're going to be doing a number of different activities with the main group of breaking free. Some of the topics that we'll be talking about is how to clarify our why. Why are we here? You know, and that is a broad, that one is huge. Why are we here? And how do we really dig deep to figure out why we're doing what we're doing? Because many of us are wasting time. We're doing what everybody else says we should be doing, although we know deep down that there's something else for us to do. Overcoming our self-sabotaging behavior. Many of us sabotage ourselves because the fear. And so this is the main purpose, and that's just some of the topic. And there's going to be homework too, folks. So it's not just about us coming in talking, but how do we put some of this into action? Because most of the time, it's not that we don't know some of these things; it's that we're not doing the work that we need to do in order to fulfill what we want in our lives. So that's what this workshop is. And if you want more information, my email is info@discovernewfuture.com. And anyone who registers is going to get one of my journals. We talked about journaling, a journal that is called Journal to Wellness. Create the life you desire and deserve. And it has a whole slew of different quotes and stuff inside of it to kind of keep you motivating as you're journaling. But also it helps you to, sometimes when we journal, and Dr. Selassie may be able to relate to this. Sometimes when we're not in a good space, we journal and we just keep on digging ourselves to deeper and deeper into the negativity. But when we start focusing on our gratitude, you know, acknowledging what is happening is one thing, but also realizing that despite all that is happening, we have a lot going for us also. And so it's a 4-step process in terms of journaling, so that we can not only identify what's happening, but also think about what we have going for us, and then also take some action for ourselves. And last but not least, help someone else, because at all times there's someone else that we can actually reach out to. So anyone who registers for this 4-week series will get a copy of the Journal to Wellness. And I have one other thing I want to share. And they're comes with this, there is this 52 tips. And I'd like to just share with you a quote. It says, "You're still in prison if you do nothing better in freedom."
Mm.
You're still in prison if you do nothing better in freedom. And so these are different set of little quotes that ponder these quotes to help us to think through our daily lives. And I just want to share that I'm doing a free weekly single parent group for parents. Parents are going through a very tough time due to this COVID. Their kids are at home and they're juggling work and all of that. So every Wednesday, and it's more than 6 weeks, I'm just doing it continuously. It's for it's a continuous every Wednesday from 7 to 8 o'clock. I'm on Zoom, and anyone wants to come Zoom in, and we just talk about some of the challenges people are going through, but we also talk about what are some of the ways to cope. So that's it from me. I really appreciate you, Sandra, having me. This was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience hearing from you ladies, and I feel so filled and so grateful. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, thank you. Thank you for coming to brunch. And what do they say? I feel like my cup is being filled up.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Yes, I too just want to say thank you. I really got some gold from you ladies. Took lots of notes. I love to learn. So this was really great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Miss Sandra, for having me too.
Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Yes, thank you, Sandra.
You are
Completely
welcome.
enjoyed myself. Will be interesting to see what was I babbling about. But I enjoyed
Great job. You did a great job. I got a lot from what you're saying too.
Got a lot, yeah. I'm like, I'm gonna start creating more of my joy, because yeah, I really got that point. I like that idea. So excellent, excellent. Thank you. Okay, well, you ladies have a lovely day. And
you
thank you for coming to brunch. We have another conversation another time.
Okay. Bye-bye, ladies. Nice meeting you.
Likewise.